Hello again from Ukraine, YouTube. Thank you to all my friends and family for the crazy, unexpected results from the last video. And thank you for those of you who stuck through and listened to the whole thing, even though it was kind of boring without too much details and just an explanation of what I want to do here. So, to reward you for sticking around and hopefully for coming back for this video, I want to give you probably one of the most personal and impactful and significant stories that I'm ever going to share in these videos. Even though this is only my second video, those of you who are here now are the people who I know the best. And so I don't want to keep you waiting around, hoping one day a lot of people are viewing my videos. So let's jump straight into it. Before I give the details of this, I do want to add a quick disclaimer. Keep in mind, this is just my experiences. There's a lot of things that I haven't experienced that other people have. There are many people who have lost everything, including lives lost. And I'm just a guy who moved here and wanted to have a normal life. And I haven't had some kind of huge contribution. And for me, this is my beginning of what I hope will be some more significant contribution, just sharing my story with you. But please don't get the impression, if you're watching this and you're Ukrainian, don't get the impression that I'm trying to, hype up something that I experienced here. I know people have had way worse experiences than me. And if you're not Ukrainian and you haven't experienced any of this, and you're just watching this because it's interesting, please remember that even though my experience isn't so extreme and I'm perfectly healthy and I'm perfectly healthy now, a lot of people to this very day, including today, have been met with absolute tragedy. So, with no further ado, I'm going to give you my account of the day that Russia invaded Ukraine. It was February 4th of 2022. And I was in Lviv. So, let's get started. So, leading up to that, I'd been getting messages from some of you, from friends and family, asking me what I thought about the news. The United States had declared that that Americans who are living inside of Ukraine should leave the country, and that if you didn't, there was not going to be the chance for humanitarian aid or for you to be, excised from the country, something like that. And at some point, I started to, my first reaction was to deny this. I didn't want to believe it. The news here was saying that that wasn't going to happen. They were telling people not to panic. And I wanted to believe that. And I did believe that to a certain extent. And so at the same time, I had moments of fear and doubt. And I started to try to devise some kind of plan to get out. And at the time, I was at the tail end of a previous relationship. And, um, I kept saying to my ex, we need to get out of here. And let's go, to Croatia for a month and have a vacation and come back after that. And if everything's fine, we'll come back. But let's see what happens. I don't want to be here. I'm starting to get nervous. I'm having a hard time going to sleep. And anyway, we didn't leave. And that morning, I was deep in sleep at probably 3 or 4 in the morning. And she woke me up. And after she woke me up, she was just standing there and looking at me and frozen in fear. And I had a pretty good idea what was going on. You know, I couldn't guess the extent to which something was happening, but I felt very panicked and I reacted like, what? Kind of barked at her, like, what's happening? And she said to me, Russia's invading. And, my heart dropped. Um, I said, okay, start packing, get all of your stuff, and let's go. And gave her a little time because she was totally shocked. I had all my stuff ready for the past 2 weeks. Everything was in bags, including stuff I didn't need, like canned food and all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I think I was preparing to go into the wilderness and run and hide and evade. Um, but she sat there for about 30 minutes, didn't know what to do. And finally, mm, you know, I started feeling a little more panicked and I said, if you need some help, I'm going to help you. I tried to make sure she didn't panic. I didn't want to put any pressure on her. And she slowly, with my help, was able to get some things in a bag, but she still was wanting to take random, non important things, everything. She didn't know what are we going to do with all this stuff. And I finally, after about 1 hour, it was starting to get a little lighter at this time, I think. Maybe not yet. Um, but I just said, okay, look, I'm gonna grab things and help you. When I grab these things and I'm gonna put them in the bag, what I think you need, tell me yes or no. So I started doing that because she wasn't getting anything back. And finally, we order a taxi. Obviously, it took a very long time. We had to call a service. They were looking for people who would drive us all the way from Lviv to Ivano-Frankivsk, which is about an hour drive, maybe a little bit more than that in normal conditions. And she eventually found this through some taxi service. And by the time we were in the taxi, it was definitely starting to get bright out, and we were waiting in huge lines of traffic. And as we're stuck in a standstill traffic, I'm looking around, I see people in the streets looking at their phones, and that's when I heard the first air alarm. And when I heard that, images flashing in my mind like, okay, we're getting bombed right now. There's going to be planes flying overhead. They're going to drop a nuclear bomb. I totally panicked. And fortunately at the time, I spoke very little Ukrainian language and I couldn't panic and tell the driver, like, just go anywhere, get out of town right now, go to the fastest, closest exit of the city and let's get far away from here. That's what I wanted to say. But I sat in agonizing silence, being totally horrified and not knowing what was going to happen. And finally, after probably 45 minutes or an hour, traffic was moving a little bit and we were leaving the city. We were on the other side of the city. We had to drive completely through the city. We're on the other side. And, still, as we were leaving, I just kept expecting to see something in the background, something horrible, the unimaginable. And fortunately, that never happened. But on the way to Ivano-Frankivsk, maybe, 20, 30 minutes outside of Lviv, almost halfway there, this guy, the taxi driver, got a call from somebody else, I think another driver, who told him, you've got to stop because Frankivsk is being bombed right now. And so he stopped and he's listening to this guy and trying to get information. And eventually the guy ends up saying it was like fake news and that we could keep going ahead. And this guy who was driving us had a mother who lived in this other region we were going to. So it was like, for him, it was good because he gets to go to his mother while taking us. He drops us off finally at the train station in Ivano-Frankivsk. And we get out of the car, and there's people everywhere. It, you know, I think a lot of people didn't know what to do or where to go, or just went out in the streets or something. And as we got out of the taxi, um, I'll never forget the seeing two police officers walk across the street, one in full armor and an armored helmet with, I don't know exactly what this was, but a chain machine gun of some sort, like big machine gun with, the chain of, or maybe a barrel on it or something like that, walking across the street to the train station. And I just thought, what is happening here? We had to find another taxi to get to the village that we were going to from there, to my ex's grandparents' house. And then this taxi driver, as he was driving us out of town, he was telling us how he was next to the airport when the rockets hit there and that there were explosions in Ivano-Frankivsk. And as we were driving out, he told us, look, and we looked out the window and saw a huge black plume of smoke coming from the airport. And eventually we got to this village. For the first 2 or 3 weeks of the invasion, we stayed there just constantly listening to the news. Some of her family from Kiev had come there. And we just always looking at news. I stayed in bed all the time, absolutely like paralyzed in fear. Rarely I would get up and go to the store with them or go to town a couple times. Every time I was really, really scared. And um, of course, I got out of bed to eat and stuff like that, but I mostly just stayed in bed, looking at the news and being horrified and worrying and not knowing what was going to happen. And there were constant sirens, and we needed to go down into a root cellar that was not reinforced in any kind of way or very deep underground, and wait out these sirens. And in the beginning, there was little to no information about where things were happening or what was happening. And so you just sat and waited and didn't know what to expect and stayed in fear. And some people, didn't react the same way. I think I was as scared, if not more scared than anybody, but we stayed there for almost a month, maybe 3 weeks. And then the women of the family plus a child, they decided it's best for them to go to Poland. And I went with them, and that's pretty much the end of that story for now. There will be other details of stories branching off from that, or some other details of what happened while we were in that village, different days, and stuff like that in the future. But that's it for now. And if you stayed around and listened this far, I hope you remember what I said earlier in the video. This is not everybody's experience. Not everybody was as lucky as me. Not everybody was as far away from danger as me. And I'm telling this because this is my story. This is the truth. Not because I want to hype it up or anything like that. I had a lot of reservations about this. Ultimately, I think it's the best thing to do and to share my story. And thank you so much for watching the first video. And if you're here now, thank you so much for the support. It totally blew any expectations I could have had out of the water. And I'm really excited and motivated about this now. So I hope to keep telling you some interesting stories. And I'm working on getting a couple little things that I need, like a lapel mic so I've got better sound and I can record outside. And as I go, I'm going to see what I need. And I need your recommendations. I love the positive feedback. Give me negative feedback too. Be honest with me. I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you my story. And that's going to help me grow. And I would love for you to see that happen and for me to be able to share my story with more people. and not only mine, but eventually make more people's stories known to more of the world if we can get to that point. So, right now, I need your help. Please like, please subscribe if you haven't already. Share it. I had 100 views, more than 100 views every day. I'm getting a little bit more. The YouTube algorithm already started recommending my videos to other people. Um, Outside of all of you who viewed it and shared it, who are my friends. So thank you so much, and I'll stop ranting with that. But if you can do any of that or share it with anybody, I'll be hugely appreciative. And I'm gonna start trying to make videos going around some places pretty soon once I have the things I need to do that. So um, stay around, and I hope you look forward to the next one. I'll see you.